Hello class, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over a monopoly practice problem. So today we're just going to see how we determine profits for a monopoly. We'll compare them to a perfectly competitive firm, and I'm also going to talk about a couple of things when you compare profits for a monopoly compared to a perfect competition, and we'll look at price, quantity, and then also long run profits. That's going to be something you'll be tested on. So our first practice problem, I give you a graph. You have price on your Y, quantity on your X. I have your marginal cost, average total cost, marginal revenue, and your demand curve. Now, the reason why this is a perfect, or not perfect competition, the reason why this is looking at monopolies because you have two downward sloping curves. You have demand, and then you also have your marginal revenue. So the key thing here, it's important to understand the characteristics of a monopoly. You're the sole provider, high barriers to entry, and you have market power. Basically, you can set a price above your marginal revenue, marginal cost. So I'm just gonna, there you go. Okay, so the first thing you should do is to calculate or find the point where you maximize profit. So we've always said where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, that's always going to be your profit maximizing point, no matter what. So here, where marginal revenue intersects marginal cost is this point right here. So at 5 and 10. So the quantity, so we'll get to the quantity in a second. So this is a profit maximizing point. This is going to show us how much we should produce to maximize our profit and what price we should set. So the quantity we should produce is 10 units to maximize our profit. Now the price, this is where it gets a little tricky. You're not going to charge $5. You're going to charge above your marginal revenue, marginal cost intersection because you have market power. People are willing to purchase this product because you're the sole provider of this product. So from here, the amount they're willing to pay is this point right here. So $10 is going to be the price that you charge your consumers or people that want to purchase your product. Your profit maximizing price should be 5, but you set it up higher because you can. You're able to do this. So now all we're going to be doing is looking at finding the profits. So get another marker. So the first thing to calculate profits, it's total revenue minus total cost. Total revenue in this case is just price times quantity. So if you follow my green square, 10 times 10, total revenue equals 100. Now total cost, this is where your quantity intersects, or this dashed line that you set up intersects your average total cost curve. So basically, if we want to produce 10 units, we want to know what the average total cost is, which is going to give us our total cost. I do the math for that in a previous video looking at perfect competition. It's the same here. So it intersects a curve at 3 and 10. So this red rectangle, this is your total cost. So from there, your total cost is going to be 3 times 10, which is 30, meaning your profits are 70. It's just 100, or 30 minus 100. Or if you wanted to, you could just calculate the area of this top rectangle. So the difference between 10 and 3 is 7. Quantity is 10. You get your profit that way as well. So another thing worth mentioning is if I were to give you this graph, you should also be able to tell what price a perfectly competitive firm would charge. So one of the key characteristics for that is wherever the marginal cost intersects your demand. In that case, your demand is your marginal revenue. So the price that a perfectly competitive firm would set is right here at $7. So you see how there's a difference between a perfectly competitive firm and a monopoly. So I'm just going to erase this real quick. So if we were to compare, so quantity of a monopoly and then quantity of a perfect competitive firm. Quantity of a monopoly, how much they produce is 10. Quantity of a perfectly competitive firm is 15. Again, the point where marginal revenue equals marginal cost in this case for a perfectly competitive firm. Again, looking back at the characteristics, demand equals marginal revenue for a perfectly competitive firm. Now, if we compare prices, so price of a monopoly, price of a perfectly competitive firm, price of a monopoly is 10, price of a perfectly competitive firm is 7. So again, these are just things that you can dictate from this graph. Another important portion of this graph is if you look at this shaded in triangle. This is your deadweight loss. This is why having monopolies is not good, because you have a deadweight loss. Now, a goal of an economist is to minimize deadweight loss. We want to capture this area as much as we can. Again, sometimes there are times where you can't sacrifice that area, so having a natural monopoly is much more efficient than having multiple companies. So again, if I were to ask you to calculate deadweight loss, you should be able to do it given these numbers as well as the access and everything. So again, deadweight loss is the main reason why monopolies are not good. All right, so another thing I want to go over is a chart. Basically, I've talked about this in the PowerPoint slides as well. I just want you to understand what I'm trying to say. So this is something you should know for the exam as well as future assignments, is your monopoly profit is always going to be greater than your perfect competition profit. Again, you're reducing competition, you're the only provider, you're going to be able to capture much more profit. Your quantity produced by a monopoly is always going to be less than the quantity produced by a perfectly competitive firm, because you're restricting the output in order to increase your profits. That's a key distinction as well. And then also the price of monopoly sets is always going to be higher than a perfectly competitive price. That will always be the case. Now, the one I really want to focus on is your long run profits. Anytime you see LR, it's long run. So long run profits of a monopoly will always be greater than 0. So what that means is it is positive. Now, your profits are going to be positive, assuming that you maintain your status. If you maintain your status, that's showing you that they're going to be able to capture profits well into the future. If you lose this, by any chance, if you lose your copyright, your patent, if someone else can produce your product or has access to this key ingredient, then you're going to lose this status. But we're assuming that you're going to maintain your status and your profits will always be positive. It's always in your best interest to maintain your monopoly status, because profits, that's the main driving force here. Now, for your long run profits for a perfectly competitive firm, it's always going to equal 0. In the long run, we'll talk about that. I'll show a graph in a second. It's always going to equal 0, or it's your break-even point. Your break-even point is where your revenue equals your cost. You're not making a profit. You're not making a loss. It's just equal 0, and I'll show it in a graph right now. All right, so here we have a graph of your firm's cost structure. So this is the firm. This is their cost structure. Now this is the market. So it's important to remember every firm has their own cost structure, but there's one market. Now this market dictates the price that's set. So whatever price is set at where supply and demand intersect, so at this point right here, whatever the price is here, that's going to be the price set by this market in a perfectly competitive market. So again, we're looking at perfect competition right now. Again, this should be a key giveaway when you have a horizontal demand curve. So the horizontal demand curve, if this were to connect all the way through, it's your marginal revenue equals your demand, which equals your price. Again, we've talked about this already. Now we're just talking about what happens in the long run in terms of profits. So from here, you should pause this video and just ask yourself, are we making a profit? Yes or no? Is the profit positive or is it negative, or are we breaking even? So at this point right here, anytime your intersection is above your average total cost, there's always a profit. So if I were to draw everything in, everyone should be able to see that this green is profit. This is good. At this price, whatever this price is, this is good. Now, let's say one of the key characteristics for a perfectly competitive firm is there's no barriers to entry. You can enter and exit whenever you want. So basically, if you see a profit and you can set up shop, anyone can set up shop, do you want to involve yourself with this business? Do you want to enter this market? Now, if there's positive profits, you want to enter this market. Again, we're assuming people are rational. If you can make a profit, you want to enter this market. So let's just say a lot of people enter this market now. Again, they see a positive profit. Now, that affects our market. Basically, there's going to be an increase in supply. Now you might ask, why is there an increase in supply? There's an increase in supply because more people want to sell this product. There's more individuals in this market. So now we see our price decrease. When our price decreases in the market, it's going to decrease here as well. So now our price is here. This is our new marginal revenue equals demand equals price. So now this is the new market price. So the intersection's right here. And now what do we know about that intersection? When marginal cost equals marginal revenue, and that equals average total cost, when all three curves intersect, we call that your break-even point. Your total revenue is going to equal your total cost. So now our quantity has decreased. You're going to produce less because there's more producers already in the market. Now let's just say the price fell even more. If the price fell below your average total cost curve. If this line was below, you would have a negative profit. If you had a negative profit, what would happen to your supply? Would people want to exit or would they want to stay in this market? They're going to want to exit. So your supply shifts to the left. And what happens to your price? It goes back up. When your price goes back up, it has an effect on your cost structure. From here, you see a positive profit. This is why we make the assumption there's always going to be a push and pull. Profits in the long run for a perfectly competitive firm always equal zero. Because if there's ever profit, more people are going to want to enter, and it's going to drive the price down until your price is basically your break-even point. So there's no profits in this case. Again, everyone's selling the same exact product. This is why this holds. So again, if you have questions about this, by all means, let me know. Stop by the Zoom session. For this video, that's going to be it. Drop a comment if there's a question. Attend the Zoom session. Email me. Other than that, I hope you guys are staying healthy, and I will see you guys again soon. Thank you.